Hey everyone, you're listening to Fantasy Uptick. I'm Jeremiah Blue, and today we're going to be comparing Tom Brady to Drew Brees in fantasy. So let's get to it. Hey everyone, if you've been following the channel, you probably have noticed that we've been talking about rookies a lot. Well, that's because right now, the only thing going on in the fantasy community is rookie drafts. Maybe there's baseball drafts going on, but I think most people are waiting to find out if there's even going to be a baseball season before that happens. Most of the NFL drafts for your actual season, redraft leagues, those kind of things, they're not going to happen until late August, early September. The only thing, like I said, going on right now is going to be your rookie drafts in your Dynasty leagues. So that's what I've been focusing on. But Tom Brady's been basically all over the media. Obviously, he was the biggest free agent acquisition as far as like storyline of who moved and what's going on with him. So I wanted to take a second and talk about the fantasy value of Tom Brady and compare him to a guy like Drew Brees, who's going to be going around the same spot. The first thing I want to do, and this is why I picked these two to talk about, because they're very similar. They're both old. You don't really know when they're going to retire, and everybody's got their own opinions. I think they both stick around at least 2 years, and I think that they're going to retire on the same year. So Tom Brady and Drew Brees are in a race for history, and I don't think this gets brought up enough in the media, but Drew Brees is currently 2,845 yards and 6 touchdowns ahead of Brady in both career passing yards and career passing touchdowns, and I think that Brady wants to catch him. So in his mind, Brady, if I play 2 more years and Brees retires after this year, I can easily throw 2,845 yards and catch him. On the other end, 6 touchdowns, you can pass Drew Brees in 1 year on that, or if Drew Brees gets hurt or whatever. So I think that's what he's trying to do. He goes to a coach like Arians who's going to really let him sling the ball. And obviously we saw what Jameis Winston did last year, and Jameis Winston threw for not Jameis Winston, but the Tampa Bay Bucks threw 5,127 yards and 33 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. So when I look at that, I don't necessarily think that Tom Brady's going to do that. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, he's going to do that except less interceptions. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case either. Because Jameis Winston, while he has his faults, which is basically throwing picks, he is really good at throwing the ball downfield. If those picks would just come back, he could be very successful in the league because he's got arm talent. And apparently he just got his eyes looked out, so maybe he can see now. But and you know, I don't know, maybe there's a colorblind situation because he keeps throwing it to the other team. But my point is basically Jameis Winston, you can't just expect a 43-year-old quarterback to just come in and put up the same exact numbers as Jameis Winston when there's a couple of things he's dealing with right now. So Brady has to come in, and while his offensive weapons are vastly improved with Evans, Godwin, and now Gronk's back to the NFL, and he's obviously very familiar with Gronk. You got to take into account that right now they're doing the whole COVID thing. So COVID is not going to allow them to have their normal training camp where they come in, they learn the system. And then the second part of this is that I don't think that the system that Bruce Arians runs necessarily works with Brady. Brady's a guy that likes his protection. He likes to drop it off to his running backs, and he likes to hit his tight ends. Bruce Arians is, first of all, the tight ends have never been involved, right? Bruce Arians is get the ball downfield, and obviously he's had success with running backs in the past, thinking David Johnson, but right now, the running backs on this roster, that's why I keep talking about Keyshawn Vaughn, aren't that great because Ronald Jones, for what they do, I actually like Ronald Jones. If he could just get in a system where he's allowed to be a running back and they don't ask him to pass protect very much, I think that would work. The problem is he's going to be working with Brady. He's going to be asked to pass protect. He's going to be asked to go out and receive, which I believe he's perfectly capable of doing, even though he hasn't been asked to do that all that much throughout his career, because he can't pass block. So if you can't pass block, it gives the defense the advantage because they know you're not pass blocking, and because the coach can't afford to have you back there and miss blocks, so they know you're going out for a pass. Now, if you're one of those players that is a true third down back where you can pass block, you can run, and you can go off for a pass, now that puts stress on the defense because they got to be prepared for either one of those options. That's why I like Keyshawn Vaughn. I don't think he's a better runner between the tackles than Ronald Jones, but I do think that he's a better pass catcher and he's better. He might not even be a better pass catcher. The truth is, he's just better at pass blocking. He can run up the middle, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield, which makes him a better fit for Tom Brady. Now, I'll be curious to see how that works in Bruce Arians' offense because, again, he's had a history of turning running backs into receiving threats, but he hasn't had it with tight ends, right? And Brady likes to get the ball short to guys like Godwin, Edelman from the Patriots. It's a question what's he going to do with Evans, which obviously we remember what he was back when he had Randy Moss, but that was also many, many moons ago, right? So I'm not necessarily 100% convinced that he touches that 5,000 yard mark. I do think he's going to be significantly more efficient. I think there's going to be a huge learning curve, especially early in the year. And he's going to require guys like Godwin and Evans, and obviously Gronk already knows his play style, his running backs, to kind of fit into his system. That's typically what old quarterbacks do, is they bring their system. Think back Peyton Manning and Brett Favre. They brought their systems once they left their current teams to those other teams. It's going to be weird because Bruce Arians is a guru, right? So that was basically the positive. So one of the positives, week 13, I really like having a fantasy guy that has week 13 off because week 14 is when the season starts. I like having the 2 weeks to prepare for my playoff matchup. For my fantasy playoff matchup, Brady's going to have 2 weeks to prepare for that. So that's a huge plus for me. And week 13, the other thing is if you're losing now, Brady, quarterbacks are harder to trade, but if you are losing, right, or you're barely fighting to make the playoffs, you know that bye week's coming up. You can trade for a quarterback who has already had his bye week. So somebody that you can count on week 13, because you can't count on Brady on week 13, but you'll know that because the season will have already played out. So right at your trade deadline, you're going, I've got as much as I can out of Brady. I need to win out. Brady can't help me in week 13. Let me trade for somebody similar to Brady, to someone that might be like, oh, no, I'll take Brady because I'm already locked into the playoffs, right? Then the poor run game, I think that's a positive for Brady, even though I keep talking about the passing game, but they were one of the worst running teams in the league last year. They were tied for third worst running team in the league last year in regards to yards per carry. So again, the fact that they're not going to be able to just turn around and hand the ball off. Now, the offensive line's improved, so maybe the running game's going to improve. And again, I don't think that Ronald Jones is a bad running back. And Keyshawn Vaughn, I've already said I like Keyshawn Vaughn this year to be an upgrade versus Peyton Barber and all those other guys that they had on the roster last year. So the running game will be improved due to the offensive line, due to Brady being there, due to an upgrade at running back. But they're not going to be able to lean on it the way the Saints can lean on the run game. You know, like they're like, get in the red zone, just run the ball, run the clock out. Brady's going to have to pass. So a lot of that had to do with why Winston threw the ball so much last year. The other thing that had to do is he kept throwing the ball to the other team, which meant they kept losing, which means they kept trying to play catch up. So again, something that Brady's not going to do. So I just don't see the 5,000 yards as I see it as a ceiling, and I mean you're banking on that ceiling. So then when we go to Brees, he's also got that ceiling. Just in 2016, he threw for 5,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and actually last year he was on pace to have a better year. He's also got an upgrade on weapons. Let's take a look at this slowly, right? 2016, 5,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. 2019, he was on pace for 4,705 yards, 43 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. 43 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. And that's a 10-game sample size. So there's that 6 games when he was basically hurt. So the 5 games that he actually missed, the 6th game was the one that he threw 5 passes and then he was out. So I didn't count that one either. Obviously, that's not a full game, so I can't really throw that into a sample size. But he did get an upgrade. Emmanuel Sanders as a number 2 receiver is a huge upgrade from what they've had. The last time they've had 2 good receivers on a team was in 2016, and Michael Thomas was a rookie at the time. So again, he's vastly improved, Michael Thomas is, and Emmanuel Sanders, that's when they had Brandon Cooks. So Emmanuel Sanders is going to get to play that role in a way, but Emmanuel Sanders is a good receiver. Now they got those weapons. They got a good tight end in Cooks. And then Kamara missed a lot of games last year, so he's going to be healthy this year. I just think that this team is loaded. That doesn't even take into account Taysom Hill is being involved all over the place, right? Then it's the system. So we talked about how Brady's, the fact that he's in a different system is a negative. So contradictory to that, Brees is in the same system, therefore that's a positive, especially in this year, this COVID year, where I think there's going to be a lot of confusion early in the year because the training camp's not going to be the same, the practice isn't going to be the same. I think there's going to be a learning curve for people in new teams. So I think that teams that can basically have all the offensive line the same, the quarterback, the receivers. Emmanuel Sanders is a veteran. I don't think he's going to have a problem coming in and playing his role. It's not the quarterback role. It's not the offensive line role. It's just one individual role. As long as he does his job, then Brees is still going to be able to hit everybody. So I don't think Emmanuel Sanders is going to have as much a learning curve. Plus, we saw what he could do last year, being traded midseason to the 49ers. So clearly, Emmanuel Sanders is capable of learning on the fly. So I think that that's going to be a plus this year, because even defenses are going to have a little bit of confusion on what they're supposed to be doing as Brees is going up against them, and he's been in the same system forever. And then the one negative that I'm going to say for Drew Brees is essentially his running game is too good. So Sean Payton has finished in the top 10 in offenses all but 1 year since 2008, right? The last 4 years, they finished in the top 4. So they're going to score points, and that's point scores. So top offenses, as far as scoring points, they're going to score points. The problem is that sometimes in some games, the running backs score a lot of points because they're so efficient both running and passing that sometimes Drew Brees has bad games. But for the most part, he's going to be a guy who's going to throw over 30 touchdowns, and he's going to be approaching the 40. He's a very safe floor guy, but he's also got the same ceiling that we were talking about with Brady, where he could finish third if Drew Brees was the third best quarterback at the end of this season, nobody would be surprised. Nobody would be surprised if Brady was either, but the floor is higher for Brees, and therefore, I'm going to choose between the two, I'm going to go with Brees. If we just put them in head-to-head, who's got the better coach? Peyton has had more success offensively. Just comparing the resumes between Bruce Arians and Sean Payton is the guy that's had more statistical success if you look at whose team is going to score the most points, right? Who's got the better offensive line? We just talked about how the Saints got they got two of the best tackles in the league on the same team. And the Bucs, while I think the Bucs offensive line's improved, you're counting on a rookie. The interior is good, and then your left tackle is kind of like flaky. Right guard's a little bit flaky too. So again, this is not going to be a bad offensive line for the Bucs, but it's not going to be the Saints offensive line either. And then who's got the better weapons? I think the Bucs probably have the better weapons, just because Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara can kind of work as a negative because Alvin Kamara is so good in the run game. Obviously, Latavius Murray's good in the run game. And Taysom Hill will sometimes come in there and take some of those passing opportunities from Drew Brees. So these guys are basically going right around the same spot, ADP, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't put too much into the ADP this early out, but that's my analysis on Brady and Brees. Tell me what you think. Do you guys think Brady should be drafted over Brees? Or do you think I'm right with going with Brees? The other thing to think about before I wrap all the way up is if you're in a 2-quarterback league, I would definitely go Brees over Brady, because in 2-quarterback leagues or those deep 16-team leagues, rather than upside, I will go for the safety. Brees is safe. There's a risk involved with him. There's a lower floor because he's switching teams and all that. So if you're in those 2-quarterback leagues, it's definitely clean kill Drew Brees. If you're in a 1-quarterback league and you're saying, hey, I want to go for the upside because I think Brady can be Jameis Winston without the picks, then that makes sense. Just make sure you get another guy just in case he's not Jameis Winston. That's it for the day show. Thanks for listening. Drop me a like in the comments. Subscribe so you can get my next videos. We're going to be going back to the rookie. I'll be dropping my top 10 list of rookie wide receivers, rookie running backs. That'll be coming up pretty shortly. With that said, till next time, see ya!